What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning into another edition of On the Road to Victory. I am your host, Jimmy Smith, and I hope you're all having yourselves a great Saturday. Oh, it is definitely a cold one out there. I hope you're all staying safe, enjoying yourselves, but finally got a little time to put out this offensive coordinator search show. Let's effing go. So, as you all know, or maybe you don't know, but Kevin Patullo was let go. Now, initially it was said that he was fired, but now he was demoted. But I guess he's being, given the opportunity if he wants to go look for a job somewhere else. If he doesn't, maybe he'll have a job here, which would be very awkward. But all right, so that's what we're here to talk about tonight. Appreciate you all taking the time. Love to hear your thoughts down below. Any questions, comments that you have. Appreciate you hitting the like button, sharing, subscribing, everything you do to support the channel, hyping these videos up, becoming members, all of it, man, really does help. But I can't thank you enough for that. But we've been talking about some of these candidates since he was fired, and I told you I wanted to put a little something together. So going to give you some candidates, then we're going to look at my top candidates here, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. But let's rock and roll. Let's start it off with 36 candidates, and I showed you some the other day, but added more to it. And some of these guys have actually been, it's being reported that they are getting interviews, or it's requested that they get an interview. So we shall see. But I've got some guys that have been fired, guys that were at college ranks, guys that are somewhere else and have the potential to move up or just change to a different team. So a lot of things to take in here. And, apparently top of our list is Mike McDaniel, Brian Dable. You've heard a lot of things. I know I have, but Jim Bob Cooter today, they're saying the Eagles are requesting an interview with. So, that's an intriguing one. Zach Robinson, one of my favorite choices. Apparently he as well. And Mike Kafka. So some names here that don't have jobs, and one that is currently the Colts OC, but we shall see. Jim Bob Cooter, we talked about him a couple of years ago. So the Eagles are always interested. Sirianni's relationship there with him. So, but you can let me know who you like off of that list. But I'm going to go through my list. Now, this was going to be a top 10, but I did want to talk about one in-house option. And I know, please don't lose your minds over this and come at me for it. But I did want to talk about someone that is here and then get into the top 10 other people. But I really do like who we have here. And if you watched the show almost a year ago when we hired him, well, you heard my thoughts then. But Scott Loeffler, this was the guy that, obviously we brought in a year ago, but people were just finding out the last couple of weeks of the past season here who he was. A lot of people were under the impression he was just hired. I don't know where that came from, but we actually brought him in last season, the beginning. It was about 11 months ago, I would say. But you can see he's got a nice track record here. But this is somebody old school, dude. Quarterback centric. He runs that Earhart Perkins style of offense, and it's just kind of an old school guy. And he's done work with Matt Ryan and Tim Tebow, and here you saw some glimpses when things started to open up a little bit. And we talked about this staff. A lot of people were really tough on the staff, and Kevin Patullo's first year as a play caller. But you talk about all of these pieces that help, all of the assistants, and this is one of them that was pretty important here. And, this is somebody that when at Bowling Green, I think, if you allowed him to run this offense, more of a West Coast, I don't want to say spread offense, but he does use some spread things, and he likes to marry the run and pass game. So that balanced attack is something we're looking for here, but uses his tight ends, uses those condensed formations, under center, play action. The timing and progressions, are important here. Using those like deep cross routes, using things that we just asked for. And we got to see a little bit of this year, but I think, given the opportunity, this is someone that has prior play calling experience that I think I would not be against, but I know a lot of people do not want an in-house hire, and I don't really blame them. I would like somebody to bring something in, but I mean, defenses are going to learn what you do well, so you have to adapt and change. So whoever it's going to be, I don't know that it's going to be in-house. So I do like Scott Loeffler. I like what he did here, but if somebody comes in, maybe they bring a whole new staff with them. So things could get interesting here. We shall see. But let's get into this top 10 here. We're going to start it off with a former Philadelphia Eagle draft pick, Mike Kafka, who was just the interim head coach there for the Giants once Brian Daboll was fired. But, he was the assistant to him. He was offensive coordinator. This is a guy that, has some play calling experience. And, in the Andy Reid tree, the Brian Daboll tree, working with Patrick Mahomes, Daniel Jones, the things he's done, and, that West Coast style, the quick offense with the quick passes, the spacing, just, yards after catch is something I think, they emphasized, and I think he would do here, using motion, lots of different formations. And, he plays to the quarterback strengths. And obviously working with Jackson Dart there, I think Jalen Hurts, obviously Dart tries to be Jalen Hurts. So it mirrors his game after him. And I think, Mike Kafka, not a great player, but a good coach. And I think he's got some intriguing pedigree here. And, obviously, if you're old enough, you remember, and obviously you don't have to be that old, but I remember him getting drafted out of Northwestern, and it's crazy to see him, doing well already, but he's got some great coaches that have been helping him out. So, look, man, Kafka did get an interview, so maybe he's that guy. I would not be against it. Up next, we've got Matt Nagy, who, in my opinion, is somebody, clearly Kafka has worked with, but you could see the Chiefs, what he's done with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid there. And, a lot of credit goes to Reid, rightfully so. But I think that Matt Nagy, his work with Nick Foles, Trubisky, Kirk Cousins, like he's worked with some good quarterbacks. Trubisky's not good, but what a blunder that was to, not take Mahomes and then have to go work with Mahomes in Kansas City after his little stint there with the Bears. But look, man, more of that West Coast spread, some RPOs in there, the quick passes, creating space. These are things we want to see. And I think this is somebody, a former Eagles coach that I like the guy. I don't know that he'd be my, top pick, and that's why I have him down here lower on the list. But I do like Matt Nagy, and I think that's somebody Sirianni familiar with that, maybe he gives a call to. We shall see. Up next is somebody we talked about last couple of times. We needed an offensive coordinator, T. Martin. And I like T. Martin, man. Remember watching him, NCAA champion, baby. Actually was a former Eagle too, played at Tennessee, but this is a guy that has worked with wide receivers and quarterbacks and works well with the pass concepts he uses. He was a play caller at USC and Tennessee, but not in the NFL. But, his work with Darnold at USC was phenomenal. Lamar Jackson in the NFL, that spread offense, really taking his time to work with the quarterback, using RPOs, verticals, finding mismatches. This is a kid, well, he's not a kid really. He's 47 years old. And, the guys we talked about, Kafka, a little younger, 38, Loeffler more, the T. Martin, 51 range. He's been coaching for a while, as you can see here. And this is an old graphic. This is somebody I'm a fan of what he does, and I would be intrigued. But I don't know that the Eagles want to just take a shot at somebody, given play calling a shot again. It's been a while. So, I don't know. But up next, I've got Kevin Stefanski, who's getting a lot of calls for head coaching jobs. The dude's from Philly, so I understand the love, his work with quarterbacks. He's a run-first guy, so that's what we want to really see. But his work with Cousins, Baker Mayfield there, running that wide zone, under center, a lot of play action, condensed formations. That's something, we want to see. And I think we're going to need to add some pieces at tight end. But, we obviously will do that. I think, Kevin Stefanski's done a great job, with the Vikings and, his shot at being the Browns. And it was the Browns. So, I think he did his best. And I like Kevin Stefanski. But I don't know that, again, he's not even in my top 5. So I like Stefanski, but I think he finds an opportunity somewhere. If he gets a job here, I'm not going to be mad at it. But, again, not my top choice. Up next, Cliff Kingsbury. And I am a fan of the air raid offense. And this is an old graphic. All I had to change, I really didn't have to change the colors here, which was really weird. It was a USC graphic. But offensive coordinator last 2 years for the Commanders here. And we saw what he did with Jaden Daniels. We know he worked with Mahomes and what he did with Kyler Murray there at Texas Tech, or with the Cardinals, sorry. But I think that spread air raid offense, and I don't know, people, a lot of shotgun. I don't know how happy they'll be there, but, more of that, the quick reads, the spacing, going through progressions. And the one thing is, I keep mentioning with these coaches, the other day I was saying about how I don't know. So far, nobody's really bothering me there. But Stoutland, just with that air raid offense, not sure how that mixes. Not sure that they keep Stout around, and I don't like that. But I think Stout could do whatever and figure it out. But completely different styles there, and I really like Kingsbury, but I don't know that's exactly what the Eagles are trying to run here. When I would like to be more run heavy, and that's definitely more pass heavy. So I like Kingsbury, and I understand the talk. He's 46 years old. I like him, but another guy that has head coaching opportunity where, just like with Stefanski, and a couple guys we'll talk about here, do you want to have them for a year and watch them become a head coach? I don't really care. I want to be good. So that doesn't bother me, but I'm just not sure that's the answer. So we'll see, but I'm not against Cliff Kingsbury. I do enjoy watching his offenses. Up next, getting to the top 5 here, I am a fan of Thomas Brown. Now, look, I know I talk about, not having experienced this, that, the other thing, and clearly this is not somebody that has had the greatest experience when you talk about like names around the league. But to me, I think he's got great experience because he is somebody, he's only 39 years old. He's from the McVay tree. You see his work with the Rams there. He's worked with Frank Reich, Eberflus. He had to actually take over there, play calling duties with Reich. He actually was a play caller with the Bears too. A lot of work with the running backs and tight ends, something I think we should emphasize. His work with Bryce Young, Caleb Williams. I'm really intrigued by Thomas Brown, one of the growing names. If you actually talk to executives out there and coaches, this is a dude that I think he would emphasize that run game in Philadelphia, definitely with the play action. He's a definite quarterback-friendly guy, what he's been doing with Drake May there. But, going through the sequencing and using a balanced attack, I think this dude, he's definitely going to be a hot commodity. Now, I understand he's not going to be one of the top names you hear about, but I'm telling you, this is going to be a guy who, given another opportunity, is going to prove maybe be a head coach one day, but a really bright mind. And I really think that this is somebody the Eagles should be taking a look at. Currently, the pass game coordinator and tight ends coach for the Patriots. Up next, another name that up and coming when you go behind the scenes, maybe not a name that's out there just yet, but Scalise there. I think another McVay tree guy that, why not, dude? He actually interviewed for this job in 2023, comes out of Iowa State where, Sirianni's good old buddy just got the job, Matt Campbell, there with Penn State. But he was a play caller there in 23. He actually played quarterback. He was a dual threat quarterback at Illinois. But I think, in that Iowa State offense, spread offense, a lot of motion, RPOs, quick decision-making, spacing, tempo, just simplifying the reads for the quarterback. I think this kid, he is a hot commodity, and he's getting a head coaching interviews for a reason, definitely moving up the ranks. Sean McVay speaks very highly of him. So I think this is a kid that could definitely find his way, sooner rather than later getting, one of those jobs. I would love for the Eagles, and as much as we talk about getting someone with experience, you don't want to miss out on the next hot name, right? If he is somebody that could really open this offense up, and maybe he's here for a couple years, but he's already getting head coaching interviews. But that's just to tell you he's very talented. So I would love to see the Eagles try to go after him, but only time will tell that. Now, getting into the top 3 next year was so hard for me. I really struggled with this one. I kept moving pieces around because I like all 3 of these guys. I like most of those guys I just showed you, but and even more beyond this, to be real with you, a lot of great options for the Eagles out there. So that's awesome. Hopefully they make the right choice here. But the top 3, some experience here, some more than others, but I think to me, I would be very happy with any of them. And, I kind of talked about, would I be mad? People ask, would I be mad if the Eagles hire someone that's just going to be gone after this year? Look, you can't, we're going to be good. Can't hire that guy. You want to be good. You want to win a Super Bowl. And if they're that good that you have to worry about them leaving, good. That's just kind of how it is. You want to have good backups. They become good and they leave. That's just an unfortunate part of the business, but it's good to be good. Don't understand the misconception there. We got to hire someone crappy so that they're around forever and we suck and we can say we want to fire them every week. Please, no. So hire somebody good. Don't worry about what happens after that. But this top 3, No, it's got my head spinning. I want to change it right now. Just looking at it, like, well, actually, so let's start it off. Number 3, Mike McDaniel at one point was number 1, and I'm a big fan of what he does. But this is another one we talked about the other day with, does he mix and go with kind of oil vinegar or water vinegar or whatever with Stoutland there? But this is a guy that, and another, it might be weird with Vic Fangio, who he hired, and then Vic kind of just bounced on him and came to the Eagles. But back just a couple years ago, man, they had the number 1 offense. Then a bunch of injuries, really got him. And I think, this is a guy from the Shanahan tree that I think we all know what kind of offense, very explosive, it really predicates off of speed, creating that space, an outside zone kind of offense. They use the play action, though, the motion and the misdirection. Just a creative offense is what we're looking for here. And I think Mike McDaniel, I would be ecstatic if we got him. Yeah, he'd probably get a job after 1 year of being the offensive coordinator, but I'm perfectly fine with that. If he helps us win another Super Bowl, that is the ultimate goal here. But look, man, I don't think we need to really emphasize too much. We all know who he is. I'm a big fan of his game and would be ecstatic to have him. Now up next, this was my number 1, and I've been telling you it's my number 1, but I went ahead and changed my mind. And I wanted to change it before I literally started doing this, but I can't. I got to stick to my guns here. But Brian Daboll, big fan of what he did with Jackson Dart, Josh Allen, even Daniel Jones. But this is the guy, as much as people talk about Hurts and his relationship, that 1 year he was with him, he's the one that benched Jalen Hurts. So, but this is somebody that Sirianni talked about in KC when he went there and Daboll was leaving, that he helped mentor him. So they have a relationship. He has a relationship with Devontae and Saquon. So, he would fit in, and I think his personality would fit in here. But that spread offense with the option routes and, just using the power run game, that is what I want to see. And I think he really accentuates to his quarterbacks, how he runs his offense. And I think he'd be perfect. Again, just like we talked about with Kafka, this is somebody that could definitely deal with dual threat quarterbacks. He's done it plenty of times. And I would love to have Brian Daboll. I would lose my mind. And yeah, he probably will get another opportunity to be a head coach somewhere. This dude, he's really smart, man. But unfortunately, I don't care about that. I want to win Super Bowls. So if we could get him, sign me up. Now at number 1, someone we've talked about the last couple of years here. And, well, last year we did not get him. We signed Kevin Patullo and Kellen Moore a couple years ago, and he went to the Falcons. And this is somebody that I was very high on then, comes from that Sean McVay tree, and only 39 years old, rather than Daboll, who's 50. But, you got a young man who, from that tree, and you saw what he did with Bijan and got Pitts involved finally. Drake London was shining there, his work with Goff and Stafford, and even Baker Mayfield there with the Rams. And what he did with Penix this year and having to deal with Kirk Cousins, I really am a fan of Zach Robinson. That outside zone, we talk about balanced offense, using lots of different formations, the play action, the motions, and those condensed formations, not just, spreading people out and doing dumb shit for the sake of it, running verticals, but, simplifying certain reads, setting up those explosive plays. And another guy that I think really accentuates to who that quarterback is, changing the offense for someone like Michael Penix to Kirk Cousins or, whatever he has to do with these different quarterbacks. But I think this is someone that, in my opinion, would be able to use Jalen Hurts and what this offense has, all the explosives. I think this is a young guy that maybe he gets a head coaching opportunity in a year or two, but you could keep him around for a couple of years, hopefully, unless he really shines, which he already did pretty damn well last couple of years. And I think he's had some head coaching interviews already. So, even just talking about it, it was like, man, I do like Daboll. Like Daboll and McDaniel are like the dream, but Zach Robinson to me is more of a reality for the future. So that top 3 is really jumbled in my brain, and I'm probably going to be regretting it after I post this, but I like all of them. So any of them, even the top 5, the top 8, 10, 11, I like those guys. I like all of them that I talked about, and there's even more. But the Eagles really just need to think about what the issues have been and bring in someone that tells them, look, this is how it's going to be. This is going to be my offense. This is how we're going to run things. And, we're not going to just be stagnant and not adjust. Like this needs to be addressed. We dealt with it with Doug Peterson. So Let's go, baby. But I'm excited about this search. Love to hear your guys' thoughts. Who is your favorite? Maybe you have a top 3, a top 5. Maybe you have a top 10, top 15. I don't care what it is. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know why you like these people, who you like. Maybe there's someone I didn't have listed you'd like to add. Whatever's on your mind. Love to talk some birds with you. But all I've got for you here tonight, got to get rolling. It is my sister's birthday, so I got to get to the party. Happy birthday, Jean. But hope you guys are all having yourselves a great weekend. I'll be back probably not tomorrow, but Monday. Going to try to put out the free agents, who should stay, who should go, all those free agents we looked at the other day. But love to hear your thoughts on this one down below. If you need anything else, you know you can always reach out, whether it's about the birds, anything. Always here for you guys as you are for me. Appreciate you taking the time. Hope you guys all have a great weekend. But until next time, I am Jimmy Smith, and this is On the Road to Victory. You all stay safe out there, and as always, say it with me now. Go Birds!